Hey everyone. So I thought I would do a bit of a video update this week. This way you could see my face even if I can't see yours. And I know that it's been just about 2.5 months now that we have not been able to gather together, and we miss that. I miss that. I miss seeing your face. I miss interacting with you. I miss just the personal connection with you. But what I thought I would do this morning is just begin by sharing something from Joshua chapter 13 and 14. That's where I've been studying this week, Joshua chapter 13 and 14. And of course, Joshua chapter 13 and 14 are what we call transitional chapters. In the first half of that book, the first 12 chapters, what we have is a lot of excitement. We have battle and bloodshed and the sword and all the things that men typically like in their action movies. But then in chapter 13 and 14, we begin to make a transition. There's more of we go from Joshua the conqueror to Joshua the administrator. And in fact, chapters 13, 14, and so on, they begin to read more like a real estate contract. And it's kind of the place where a lot of people start losing a little bit of interest, but it's a really important grouping of chapters there because it's talking about the inheritance of the Israelites. It's the allotment that is given to each one of the 12 tribes. But one of the things I love about chapter 14 is that we are actually reintroduced to a character by the name of Caleb. And you'll remember Caleb. Caleb was one of the 12 spies. He was one of two that came back and gave a favorable report to Moses. He said, God has given us this land. God has made this promise to us. He's going to give us victory over the inhabitants of the land, and we should go in there and we should take it and possess it. And of course, we know that the other 10 spies inspired fear in the hearts of the Israelites, and their hearts melted. And so what happened? God turned them around because they would not go. And so they ended up in the wilderness for 40 more years. Well, in chapter 14, we are reintroduced to Caleb, and Caleb is now 85 years old. And so we have the division of the land, and Caleb goes up to Joshua, and he says, hey, you will remember the promise that Moses made to me that day. And he rehearses what happened when he came back with the rest of the spies, and the report that he made, that he had wholly followed the Lord and the promise that Moses made to him. And so then Caleb, at 85 years old, he says to Joshua, you give me that mountain. You give me that mountain and I will take it. And he says he is just as strong for war at 85 as he was at 40. And of course, we read that and we say, well, how is that possible? I mean, has this guy lost a couple marbles? I mean, is his senility finally set in? I mean, a little bit of early onset or maybe later onset dementia? What's going on, right? But the fact is, the key there is that he wholly followed the Lord. You see, Caleb was just as strong for battle at 85 as he was at 40 because his approach to the battle was exactly the same. He trusted God fully. And he knew the battle was not his. The battle belonged to the Lord. And that's a huge lesson for us. It's an amazing lesson for us. Not only that the battle belongs to the Lord, but even at the age that we are, and we are getting older. I'm getting older. I mean, certainly body parts are letting me know. But as we get older, God is not done. God is still very much at work. And he has much for us to do, and he is expecting us to be engaged in those battles and just embracing the next chapter of life. See, I don't want to be one of those people that eventually gets to the age, whether it's 80 or 85, that I'm sitting in my lounge chair looking to see who's going to pass me the remote because I don't want to get up and get it. I'm just kind of buying time at that point. No, I want to be somebody like Caleb. I want to be somebody who is wholly following the Lord. I want to be somebody who is ready for that next chapter, that next battle, that next insurgence into territory that the Lord is claiming through his people. And so that just kind of excites me as I see Caleb, and I hope you feel the same way. I hope it just kind of reinvigorates you to read about Caleb. So have a look at chapter 14. this week, and know that we are going to come back and look at chapters 13 and 14 real soon. But that brings me to a bit of an announcement for this Sunday. One of the things that I have been doing is I've been reaching out to our missionaries and seeing how they're doing. And I have asked some of them to pre-record some messages as well as some updates for us, because I want to get their faces in front of you as the church. And so this week we are anticipating a message and an update from Aaron Murray. And of course you remember Aaron and Melissa Murray. They're going to be church planters in Quebec. And so you can anticipate a message from Aaron this Sunday. Secondly, there has been a lot of talk, and maybe you've heard a little bit about it, but there's been a lot of talk about churches being allowed to do services now, but they have to be done in a drive-in type format. And what that means is that the church has to use an FM transmitter. Vehicles need to be parked 2 meters apart. The vehicles need to be designed to be close to the elements, and the church itself has to be closed so that no one is accessing the church. Also, notes, etc., cannot be passed between vehicles, and there's no socializing allowed. So, in light of those conditions, I've had numerous conversations with the local pastors, and also passed that along to the deacons, and I've made the decision that that is not the best avenue for us to go. Having the church locked up where our little ones can't use a washroom is not practical. Having families locked in a car in 30-degree weather with the windows up is not practical. And so we do think that we are pursuing the best avenue possible right now, until such a time where we are able to gather, at least in smaller numbers. And of course we're watching that. But we wanted to keep you up to date as to what the thought process has been. I also want you to know that I am holding some church hours still. And so if you need to meet with me, whether it's for prayer or you just want to talk about something, or you just want to, have a social distance coffee and just be able to kind of fellowship a little bit, then I'm available. Get a hold of me on my cell, and we can make that happen. Lastly, what comes to mind is my daughter. My daughter is turning 15 in 10 days. And she's made this wonderful backdrop for me, and she has a really creative spirit. And one of the things I know as a parent is that this isolation has been very, very difficult on our children, all of our children, not just because one has a birthday and one doesn't, or so on and so forth, but it's hard. We can't see our loved ones. We can't see grandma. We can't see grandpa. We can't go out to the places that we normally go to. We aren't able to see our friends, or they aren't able to see their friends. And in some ways, it's still hard. It's hard for us as adults, but it's definitely harder on the children. And so I want to encourage you to pray for our children, all the children, and know that both Rebecca and I are praying for the kids as well. And Anne, I want to thank you for your faithfulness in putting together children's packages each and every week. Anne, if you don't know, has been putting together these kits that she is providing for each one of the children in our church family, so that they have something to do in the way of Sunday school material, so they can work through a lesson. There's games and there's snacks and there's all these different fun things. And maybe what you can do as a parent is send me some pictures of their artwork or their games or their playing or whatever. And what I will try and do is I will try and get some of those pictures up before our sermon, so that they'll kind of scroll through and you can see what our kids have been doing. But I do need to thank Anne for her faithfulness and her diligence. And it's been a hard time, because she misses all the kids just as we do. And she's worked closely with them, and she loves each and every one of them, and she loves you as parents. And I know it's been a difficult time. And I think maybe one of these updates real soon, I'm going to have Anne on the screen for you to see, and she can address you personally. So anyways, I'm going to sign off, but I want you to know that we're praying for you, that we love you, and I just want to encourage you to continue rejoicing in the Lord and all the blessings that He continues to give you. All right, bye-bye for now. God bless.